Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned about like the western part and yeah, the soils becoming acidic. This is a problem we are noticing and has been talked about a lot. So in such a case, like what is your recommendation, especially like for let's say if soils are too acidic, what is the best steps that a farmer should take to correct that the cheapest way possible?
So the cheapest way possible is to have prevented it from the start, which is what we train on in terms of good agricultural practices. But we have found in some cases some soils having very low soil pH. So we do provide a pH adjustment schedule. So a pH adjustment schedule is in two ways. How can you work with organic matter to improve your soil pH? But also how can you do processes like liming, like addition of lime to the soil as a conditioner to improve to unlock the nutrients in the soil and raise your soil pH such that the nutrients then become available to your plant. And the thing with pH correction, and we talk to farmers a lot about this, is that it's not an overnight thing. So it didn't happen overnight. It's not going to be solved overnight. So it's a process that we try to work with farmers through. It takes about 6 months for you to even adjust your pH correctly. And so there are practices that you need to do even before planting. So for example, for people that want to plant in an area and it's very acidified, immediately after you harvest, that's when you should start conditioning your soil, application of organic matter after harvesting, so that by the time it's time to plant again, your soil has already improved to a level that's the right level for your plant to grow at. So it's a walking journey that we work with farmers through.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. You mentioned like the also process of like if your soil is acidic or like it's alkaline, the best way to start is like just start by preventing. And I think today we've lost a bit of that art because as you said, like soil organic matter is important in correcting those pH changes. Because I remember like growing up in my grandma's farm, after harvest we always used to put cows into the maize so that they could sort of eat the organic matter and then sort of accelerate like the decomposition of the organic matter of the maize. So I think like such a small practices used to make a huge difference, and I think today a lot of farmers don't do that. And yeah, that's why I think we are seeing sort of this like soil either swinging too much in terms of pH changes as well.
I'll just agree with you on that. And part of the trainings that we do are really to use indigenous practices. So you said that what's the most affordable way? The most affordable way to solve a problem is to use what you have. So we work with the farmers with what they already have, with things that they can actually use on their farm to do this. And then now we get to a place now you need to buy something. So because if you use what you already have, then it becomes ingrained in the children that are watching you do it as they grow up. So once they grow up, in the same way some people say, my grandfather didn't use to soil test. Now they can say, my grandfather soil tested all the time. So, and we have to be those grandfathers for them, right? So that's something that we're trying to put in there, to use what they have, do it yourself, so that the people around you can see you do it. So it becomes a change in culture. It becomes like, this is what we do. This is how we plant. Yeah. So it's not something that RIA comes and tells us to do for 3 months and then they disappear and then they'll come back after 3 more months. So it's something that you own the process for.
It's quite interesting. I think the more people do it, the more it becomes the norm for most people to do it as well. I was just like wondering in terms of like the differences you were seeing between those who test their soil and those who don't. What do you think is the most important variable? Because I'm trying to think through it. So let's say a farmer who has tested their soils, they're more likely like to grow the right kind of crops, like for your suggestions, or they're likely to use the right amount of fertilizers on their farm. So what do you think is the major variable that is differentiating farmers who test the soil and those who don't?
It's all those variables. So they get to grow also at the start. They get to grow the right type of crop for their soil as is. So for example, if your area is more acidic, then you should grow crops, even as you improve your soil pH, that are more inclined to that type of soil pH, so that by the time you get to the soil pH that is the target for the crop that you want, then you can grow it then at that time. They also get to use the right type of fertilizer. So the right type is important. And the right ratio is important as well. So how much nitrogen are you putting in? How much phosphorus? How much potassium? Sometimes you find that you have enough nitrogen in your soil. You don't need to add more with the fertilizer. So by testing your soil, you're sure exactly what type, what ratio to apply. But another thing that is critical for us to note is the rate of application. So the rate of application determines how many bags you buy. So it determines how much you spend. So you're looking at your fertilizer cost ratio as well. You're able to say, for this one bag of fertilizer, I'm expecting X amount of yield in maize. And for that yield in maize, then this is how much I will have saved because I used the right amount. But if for the farmer that didn't test their soil and they only bought using guesswork, the type of fertilizer that they'll get, because either they bought the wrong one, so either they buy too much and then they buy the wrong one and then they plant and then they get less yield. So if you compare that person and the person that used the correct measure, then the disparity is great. So you guys are on a seesaw, but this guy has been high all the time and you're just at the bottom and they can't lift you up. So it becomes like a thing when you start thinking about it. It also ensures, so target yield is great because then the more yield you have, the more you can keep for your family, but also the more that you can sell.